How's that?
That's lost. Where have you been?
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Master Skywalker, there are too many of them. What are we going to do?
This is where the fun begins.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Jedi Eternal, a Star Wars podcast. Here we are in episode 72. I am your co-host, Braxton Taylor, here alongside our fellow co-host, Andrew, the Ice Hermit Bolin.
The Ice Hermit.
The Ice Hermit. You know, as some of you may be aware, here in where we live in the kind of Midwest, northern Midwest-ish. Anyway, we got a lot of snow, a lot of ice, and so we're just kind of coming out of it. And I was able to drive here, and Andrew hasn't really gotten out very much yet, so I just see him in here in his joggers and. Anyway, he kind of reminded me of the Ice Hermit. You know, I don't know.
Why do I feel like you're judging me a little bit right now?
I'm not judging at all.
What's wrong with my joggers?
No, I'm just saying.
Maybe I wear these.
It's
Maybe
a casual
I wear
thing,
these to town. How do you know?
I hope not. No, just kidding. So anyway, we are very glad you guys are back with us. Hope everybody's safe out there. Like as you're listening to this, if you got hit by the snow and ice, I hope everybody's safe and doing good. We're back here with episode 72, and we have a lot of fun stuff for today. Just want to say once again, if those who are a part of our Patreon have become our producers. And so, first of all, if you are not knowing what that is, in our Patreon, we have a $5 a month subscription where you get a couple of cool perks. You get to become a producer, and meaning you get to help make decisions on the podcast and on our other show, which we're about to mention, but you get to help do decisions on that. Secondarily, for our regular podcast, as you're hearing right now, those who are our producers and a part of our Patreon will get instant access to that. So, you know, you don't have to wait till Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can have instant access as we do it. And then last but not least, you get exclusive access to our brand new series and other stuff where basically it's just me and Drew talking about whatever we want to talk about. But also, though, we have taken suggestions. We have Elder Scrolls and Skyrim that people want us to talk about. We have Lord of the Rings. We have Marvel. And just to give a little sneak peek, our next, I guess that's our first official episode will be main topic-ish. We kind of talk about what we want, but our main big topic we're going to talk about because of the poll that we put on there is Marvel. So if you guys are excited about hearing any of those topics, please join us. It's going to be an awesome time.
Specifically the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Exactly. So before we move on, we do want to give a shout out, as we do every episode now, to all of our producers and Patreon subscribers. So Drew, do you have our list of producers?
I do. So we want to give a big shout out to our Patreon producers, and that is Corey Wise, Alex Mason, Grace and David Gill, Tara Bolin, and JB, Josh and Birkinshaw.
Yes. Excellent. Hey, thank you very much, sincerely, to all of those who are our Patreon subscribers and our producers. We give special shout out to you because you guys are helping us out and wanting to hear more from us, and that just means a lot. So
yes, it does.
Without further ado, though, we're going to get into our regularly scheduled program, and our first news piece for the week is talking about an Obi-Wan comic. So we're for a long time, just to give some context, the one of the last things that we really have about Obi-Wan Kenobi specifically was the 2013 book Kenobi by John Jackson Miller. And of course, that was no longer canon as Disney took over and all that good stuff. But with that said, we haven't heard anything official canon about Kenobi, especially in between episodes 3 and 4. But now we are getting, before the show is coming out, we will be getting a Marvel Obi-Wan comic, and it is supposedly coming in the month of May. So, Drew, what do we have on that?
Yeah, so this is a 5-issue miniseries, and it's going to be written by Christopher Cantwell. The series finds Kenobi in the final days of him on Tatooine, chronicling earlier adventures in his own journals. We've seen some of this through when Luke in the comics had found his journal and he read some stories, and so we've gotten kind of sneak peeks of this, but we're getting more now from this series, which I'm very excited about because more Obi-Wan Kenobi is always a good thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And also you have to assume there might be some hints or at least some ideas of where we might be headed with the Disney Plus series. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
and basically it's saying that each of these stories is about Obi-Wan at a different stage in his life, and it's going to be him telling the story, knowing that he's about to leave Tatooine and kind of fulfill his destiny.
Yeah.
And so it should be very interesting to see. Very excited to read these, and it'll be in May. So
Yeah, I haven't really dove into the comics as much. I did read most of the Vader ones and stuff like that, but as I'm sure most of our listeners know, anything Kenobi I will be ravenously consuming. And so I'm going to be diving. I'm super excited about this. Of course, the show, obviously, but even the comic series, anything as Drew said, anything that we can get about Kenobi is pretty awesome. So very much looking forward to that.
yeah, and I think about like where this is coming out in May, and it does make you start to wonder if that could potentially. Sorry, big yawn.
Wow.
Whew.
Wow.
Sorry about that. It makes me wonder if like that is.
Are you not
potentially
excited
where...
to be here?
It does make me wonder though, like if we're getting the series close to when this comes out, because as you know, like most of the time when we get a new series or movie from Star Wars, we get other releases in comics and movies, or comics and books, etc. around that same time.
So we do have a rumor,
and we do have
it's kind of correlative to this, and we're not going to jump ahead, but just remember that here in just a moment. We'll come back to this.
Yes, exactly. So let's move on for now. Going to our second story, there's a new middle grade novel that is based on the upcoming game from Star Wars called Star Wars Hunters. And this novel is called Star Wars Hunters Battle for the Arena. This is a game that was originally announced for mobile, and I think it's also coming to Nintendo Switch, I believe. This is interesting to me that this is, out of everything, this is getting a novel.
Right.
Yes, it is a middle grade novel. To be honest, I'm not super sure on the is this a canon novel or not?
Yeah.
But it's I saw somebody complain about this because they're like, wait, this game is getting a novel, but Jedi Fallen Order didn't. And I get that. I do understand where they're coming from with that. So it is interesting. But hey, I mean, it could be good. It could be interesting. I mean, who's to say? Do you have any thoughts on it?
Well, and just to kind of bounce off of that previous thing you just said there, here's the thing with Jedi Fallen Order, that is something much larger than Star Wars Hunters, right? In terms of a game, it's much larger, and we have a very deep lore-based gameplay in that first game. And from what we know, there is going to be a sequel. Now, we don't 100% know that it's going to follow the exact same storyline. It could be anything else. We've had this discussion before. But theoretically speaking, though, that game could follow in the same storyline and give more, you know what I'm saying? So not to say that it shouldn't have a book and not to say that it couldn't have a book, but I'm just saying that medium that they chose to tell deep lore was in the game. So bouncing back to Star Wars Hunters, this is clearly not going to be that big of a game. It's not that deep of a game. So a book would kind of suit this. Not saying, again, that it should or shouldn't be there, but I can see that they say, okay, well, there's not going to be much to this game, so we could supplement it with a book to give some more background, give some more story, which to some degree, Jedi Fallen Order didn't need. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I that's a good point. I agree. It is just, I'm just curious the audience that they're going for here. I mean, clearly they're going for a younger audience.
Yeah.
Since this is a middle grade novel, and maybe they'll find success in that. Marco Shiro's the author, and I don't think I don't believe he has written anything in Star Wars before that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I guess there is a lot to this that's we don't understand about really any of these characters or why in the world there's even an arena. Right. All these things that, I guess a book could cover. And since the game itself isn't a story-based game, it's just multiplayer, they can kind of fill in story details by this
Tell me
novel.
this, and this, I may be completely off base. I'm hoping you know more than this I do, but the Star Wars Hunters and talking about the arena, is this the same arena that like Chrysanthemum the Gladiator was in? Because if so, then they can maybe tie him into that. I don't know. I have no clue if that's tied at all, but I'm just throwing that out there as an assumption.
Yeah, so that's a great question. The story I know is the arena takes place on Vespara. And honestly, I don't remember where. Are you looking it up?
I'm trying, yeah. I'm not sure what to
Because
type.
I am curious where that was at. But
Yeah,
part of me
let's see.
wonders if it was. I'm looking it up too. We'll figure it out. Just a second.
Yeah, this is one of those spontaneous times we have no
um,
clue what we're talking about.
Because I'm.
So I'm just gonna read this little excerpt. Originally making his debut in Marvel's 2015 comic, Star Wars Darth Vader, the Kieran Gillen and Salvador Larroca Black Chrysanthemum sought out a life of pit fighting in a gladiator arena to make. Okay, so that didn't say anything. So sorry for wasting the time. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, so he started out with the Zonti brothers, but it doesn't say
where.
where.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not ever been said. I would have to go back and read those comics. It's been a while since.
And maybe it travels around too. You know what I'm saying? So, because like obviously gladiator pits are probably illegal, so they probably don't have a home base. You know what I'm saying? They kind of go.
Yeah, and that's also possible. You know, they mentioned him being a gladiator and stuff, but like for me, what I remember him as more than anything is a bounty hunter.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I remember him as mostly, as we see and we talked about this a little bit about how he was hired by Jabba to go after Kenobi, and
Oh, here you go.
that didn't of course work out, but
I don't know if this is exactly applicable, but it says a fighting pit was a place where individuals fought each other. Sergeant Creel's father and mother both died in the fighting pit on Chagar 9 or 1X. You know what I'm saying? The Zonti brothers were a group who taught Black Chrysanthemum to be a gladiator. So potentially
Okay.
Chagar 9.
so it doesn't sound like it's the same place.
Yeah.
But it could maybe still be the same like concept.
Some
idea.
concept, and yeah.
We also seen kind of a similar gladiator arena type deal in the comics with a couple different places. We've seen it in Attack of the Clones,
Yeah.
right? But we've also seen it in the comics again, where like Han, Leia, and Chewbacca, I think, all have like lightsabers, and they're like, it's crazy.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, it's one of those moments where I'm like, oh, they probably shouldn't have done that.
Okay, they're falling off the boat here.
Probably shouldn't have done that in canon. It just seems kind of weird, but
Yeah.
um,
How did they not kill themselves? I'm just
but anyway, yeah. So we talked about that book a lot
way
longer
more than we thought we
expected,
would.
but-
Yeah. Well, we just kind of deep dived in some of the stuff that might justify why it has, but so anyway, yeah. Let's move on. So we'll see on that. We'll see what ends up coming of that. But anyway, so our last and final news piece for this week is that the Book of Boba Fett rises in the streaming charts after its second episode. So as you may be aware, some of these stats that Drew's going to be pulling from, I can't remember what website exactly it is off the top of my head, and he's going to clarify, but it doesn't have all of the newest stuff. You know, we're on episode 6 now. We just received episode 6 this previous Wednesday, and so at the end of the day, you know, it might be blowing up more. We'll see. But as of the second episode, though, it has been rising in the streaming charts, and apparently more people are paying attention to it and wanting to see it. So, Drew, do we have any more on that?
Yeah, so this is based off of the Nielsen streaming charts, as we've talked about before. We reported on the first one about how the first one wasn't doing so hot. The second episode of the series helped the show rise to the 5th spot on the weekly charts compared to the first episode, which debuted in the 8th spot.
Oh, okay.
So, of course, there's a lot of different things that can go into this, right?
Yeah.
The audience pulled together to watch 563 million minutes of the show's first 2 episodes during the second week of the series. And we can see that there is 4 Netflix series in that list. Cobra Kai is in first, actually. The Witcher was in second. Stay Close in third. And then we had Emily in Paris, Ozark, The Wheel of Time, Lost in Space, The Great British Baking Show, and Boba Fett. So all those in there together. Boba Fett coming out in, I think I said 5th place?
Yeah.
Is that what I said? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, not what you expect from Star Wars, right?
Right.
Star Wars lagging behind Cobra Kai, Witcher, not necessarily surprised.
You can kind of see that, yeah.
You can see Witcher catching big numbers, and even Cobra Kai. I mean, there's a lot of fans of that at this point. But
compared to Star Wars, you're kind of like.
But
really?
even compared to Star Wars,
Yeah.
it starts to make you wonder, right?
Yeah.
So, I think that we will see this continue to escalate.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Especially after what we've seen in the past couple of episodes. And trust me, we're going to talk about that here in a little bit. I think we'll see these numbers escalate to similar to what we knew from the Mandalorian episodes.
Oh, yeah.
I think we're definitely headed in that direction. So, yes, it seems still kind of low, but it started to climb a little bit. But I think by the time we can get the data for the end of this season, I think we're going to see a lot higher numbers than this.
And another thing is why it may have jumped up from first episode to second episode. Wow. Is basically another thing I was thinking of is visibility, right? Maybe some people were just not really anticipating this and they didn't really know. And the first episode came out and they just had no clue it was even out there. But then people start talking about it and then all of a sudden like, oh, wait, is that? Oh, okay. And then they start watching episode 1 and then 2. So maybe it's a visibility issue too. And,
right.
Granted, I will say there has been far more trailers, and that might be why, I can't talk today. That might be why they have more trailers. But there's more trailers for Book of Boba Fett than there has been for Mandalorian by far, and it may be because there wasn't a big visibility and a big turnout. So as episode 1 came out and episode 2 came out, and there wasn't really what they wanted to start pumping out these trailers, so that could tie into it. So So anyway, as we move on, and obviously as the show ends, I'm excited to see how that pans out and how much more visibility we get there. So we're gonna move into our rumors, and
I'm gonna go get a Red Bull. Do you want one?
Grief. Yes. In that case, so we're gonna go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead into rumors while he's getting his Red Bulls. He's yawning. I'm yawning. So apparently we need it. So we actually have one rumor for this week. Ironically enough, it's kind of been a slow week here. With that said, it's kind of an interesting one, actually. It's not just some random thing, but this is actually a pretty significant thing here. Thank you. Anyway, so the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, we know that this was supposed to debut here in 2022. And that's kind of been the consensus here. But the series debut may have actually been accidentally revealed by a Disney executive. I don't know who it was or what position they held, but there was a tweet that was sent out, and I think, Drew, you probably have the exact tweet, right?
I do.
But basically, this tweet was sent out, and they mentioned. Well, let's just go ahead and read it.
Yeah. So. This came from Brandon Giovanni, the Enterprise Program Manager at Disney Plus. So not just a nobody, right? Like he's the Enterprise Program Manager.
Yeah, he has a manager in his title. It has to be important.
So he tweets out, "Our very own Obi-Wan will be saying hello there on Disney Plus, May 2022."
Uh-oh.
So he tweets this, okay?
Yeah.
Almost minutes later, it is deleted.
and he was killed, I think.
And no one has heard from him since.
Disney might have taken him out.
The old Mickey Mouse gave him the.
Oh boy, you really something you should know. Prepare to die. Anyway, enough of that. But anyway, no. So that's very interesting, right? I mean, and there's a lot that could be mentioned here. We don't want to deep dive too much on this, but. We talked about this last episode, how Bad Batch was supposed to have a spring release, and we had, April to June or whatever we said last week. Yeah. And we said, well, it makes sense, right? That would be based on May 4th, Star Wars Day. But this week makes way more sense, right? Usually, and that's what I said, usually they reserve May the 4th, a big release, or let me phrase that, a release is pretty big that's on May the 4th. Well, Bad Batch didn't really make sense to me, but Obi-Wan Kenobi would be a huge thing to drop on Star Wars Day.
The only thing is, I anticipated they would want to wait.
Yeah.
To have a big reveal of Kenobi at Celebration.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
But Celebration's still kind of up in the air right now.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't even know if it's happening. No one's really talking about it. But here's the question I have. The question I have is what was this guy thinking when he tweeted this, right? What was the thought?
He had a little too much fun on a Saturday night, and he just wasn't thinking right.
Here is kind of the general consensus of what happened here. He tweeted this not long after the new comic series was announced.
Oh, okay.
So the idea that people have kind of came to is that he saw the tweet go out about the Kenobi comic and thought it was the Disney Plus series. So he went ahead and just tweeted out the release date.
You would think with Disney there would have to be so many approval checks before something like that.
Yeah, it still doesn't make sense, right? Really, you could how did you think that was going to be okay? But unless he truly thought they had spilled the beans on the comic or on the show, and so he just went ahead and didn't realize it was the comic. So that's kind of what people are thinking happened here with this.
Sure.
But there is one other option, though I think it's more unlikely. But the other option is he saw the May 2022 release date for the comic and then again thought it was whatever and then said it's coming out in May.
Yeah.
But we're talking about the what was his title again? We're talking
Something
about
manager,
the enterprise program manager at Disney Plus. So the guy's got to know the date, right, of when this is coming out.
You would think so,
right?
Yeah.
Or does he not know?
Or how many managers are there at Disney?
Yeah, but yeah.
Who knows?
Who knows? Who knows what's going on here? But let's go ahead and say that Kenobi's going to release on May the 4th. Okay.
Yeah.
If it releases on May the 4th, we are here we are in the beginning of February.
Yeah.
We have to see something about this sooner than later.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, they don't, and just to be honest, I don't think it would be this way, but they're not going to want a repeat of Book of Boba Fett, where it kind of just stalled out at the beginning, and they're trying to gain some new traction with these commercials and trailers, and it's starting to pick up now, but they want this to be big from the get-go. So you're right. I think they're going to have to make a big media push for this, like you said, sooner rather than later, if it isn't May.
Yeah, and I think when I think about it, what makes most sense between now and May the 4th? Well, we do have the Super Bowl coming up.
A Super Bowl commercial, it would be big enough in my mind to push it a Super Bowl commercial.
Yeah,
so that makes sense.
I think maybe having a teaser reveal on the Super Bowl would make a lot of sense, and then maybe get a full-on trailer in April sometime.
So so Super Bowl is February 13th.
Yeah, it's very soon.
Right around the corner.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I don't know if that's when it'll be. That's basing off of if it is releasing on May 4th.
Yeah.
But here's something that I think in my head is still more likely. I'm still having trouble thinking this is truly coming out May the 4th.
Right.
But I could see maybe them revealing the first trailer on May the 4th.
Yeah. Yeah. Or like
I could see Bad Batch releasing May the 4th and Kenobi trailer releasing on May the 4th.
okay. So when do you think that would come out? What's a more appropriate
Well, I think
date?
what I said last week is still where I stand. Maybe like an August or September release.
Yeah. Okay.
I think I said
can
that
see
last week, didn't I?
I don't remember.
I and my thought with that is we get Bad Batch in spring,
Yeah.
then we get Kenobi late summer, and then you get Mando season 3. Or sorry, I don't know when Andor's coming out. I don't know
that
what's going on
exists
with
anymore.
Andor.
I think it's a big prank.
It's like some big running joke or something.
Elaborate prank.
Yeah. But we assume we're getting the Mandalorian late this year.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where my head's at with it right now. But maybe not.
Yeah. Who knows?
And maybe they release the Bad Batch and Kenobi on top of each other, where they're both going on.
Yeah.
I think that would be
yeah, that would
crazy
be
of them.
A little wild,
I think they should space it out. But I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. I mean, at the end of the day, obviously seeing it sooner rather than later would be awesome for us and for a lot of people. But, obviously we have to think about it realistically. And yeah, I think May is pretty soon, especially since we haven't heard anything about it. So yeah, I mean, maybe here's the thing. Even if it is an August to September thing, I still think that we could see something at Super Bowl, right? Even if it's just a teaser trailer, because they could drop that in Super Bowl and then have plenty of time to drop a big full trailer and then a release in August and September. You know what I'm saying? So hey, I'm gonna make a prediction, right? We're gonna see something about Kenobi at Super Bowl. I'm not 100% on that, but I'm gonna throw it out there. And if we come back and it's true, then hey, we're gonna look cool.
Well, and I think that we're gonna get we're gonna get some MCU stuff at the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
for sure. So yeah, it would make sense that let's throw in Disney Plus is like, okay, we're gonna have some Disney Plus MCU announcements. Let's do Star Wars too. Like, why not?
I can see
and
it.
Again, one of the biggest times to reveal, it's very expensive, but one of the biggest times to reveal something new is still the Super Bowl. It's one of the biggest moments of the year. So
yeah, I can see it. So let's go ahead and move on. We only had one rumor for this week, so we'll go ahead and move on to our releases for this week. So Drew, let us know what we have coming up.
So we have some stuff here coming up. We have Darth Vader issue number 20. That is going to be on Wednesday. We have the High Republic Trail of Shadows issue number 5. That is also on that Wednesday. Star Wars Adventures issue number 14. That is going to be on Wednesday as well. So 3 new comic issues for you there. The Darth Vader one is they're still dealing with the Crimson Reign, so we're dealing with the whole Kira thing. Very interesting stuff. The High Republic Trail of Shadows, very intriguing. And it's specifically dealing with the aftermath of the and the mystery, I guess, of the end of the second adult novel. I won't say what that is right now because Braxton is reading that novel right now.
Hey, you guys gotta be proud of me. Come on, I went from reading
very
nothing.
proud of you.
I finished Light of the Jedi, and I'm
Well, we need to update on that. So this is a better time than ever to do it. Braxton is reading through the High Republic. He has finished the Light of Jedi.
Yeah,
and now he is reading the second one, which is the Rising Storm.
I think I can't remember. It's the adult novel. I'm not currently reading the YA novels. Hey, we can only get so crazy here.
The Rising Storm. That's what it's called. So he's just reading the 3 adult novels for now. But we're very proud of him.
Yay!
And here's the thing: when he finishes, we are going to have that big discussion we've talked about doing, where we're going to dive super, super deep into phase 1 of the High Republic as a whole. Yeah. We're going to discuss all the plot, all the characters, where things are headed next.
Yeah.
where we're going in the past, all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's going to be a huge episode all about the High Republic.
It'll be fun.
And it'll be me, it'll be Braxton, and we're also going to have some other people join us for that. So it's going to be an interesting time with multiple different perspectives. So
yeah.
definitely be getting excited about that. But it's all going to hinge on how quick can Braxton finish these novels.
I'm trying my best. Hey,
well,
I'm trying my best.
Well, actually, you have time because there's one more novel that is coming out. It's the middle grade novel. Comes out next month. So
Okay.
I'm not going to speak on all of phase 1 until I can finish that novel.
Right.
So that I have everything. So
Yeah.
So
I should be done by then. At least I hope
so yeah, you got another month and a half or something.
Yeah, I should be able to read 2 books by then. Because I'm like not halfway through Rising Storm, but I'm like a third of the way through, maybe.
Well, and the important thing is don't rush it, enjoy it.
Oh, I'm soaking it in.
Definitely soak it in. It's some really good stuff. And where are you at currently in it?
So I am about a little over, I think 120 pages in, something like that. So like I said, it's not. I mean, I don't know. If people wanted to read it, I'm sure they probably read it by now. But basically, I'm at the point where it's the day before the Republic Fair, which is one of Lena So's great works, and it's the day before, and basically Lena So, which is the Chancellor, and Stellan Gaios, and Elzar Mann, and a lot of these people are on Valo, and long story short, they're getting prepared for that and all that kind of stuff.
It's about to get real good.
Yeah, no, I've
it's about to get.
I've heard that it gets pretty crazy around here.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of things are kind of coming up here. Well, obviously we have the Dream Gear, which you don't hear much about up to this point. But they show how threatening they are.
So and that's an interesting thing. And I know we're kind of getting off on it, but it's okay.
Well, that's
Star
why
Wars
the
podcast,
YA novels, right, kind of comes in.
Yeah. So if you only read the adult novels of the High Republic, you essentially get really no interaction with the Dream Gear at all.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So
even on the third one too?
Even on the third one.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, because you will only hear discussion about them. And the reason for that, and I won't get too much into plot details, but I will just say whoa, punching the mic over there.
My
again.
bad. I'm trying to burp, and I don't want to burp in the mic.
So you just punch the mic
so I'm
instead.
just gonna boop.
As you punch it again.
Take this!
Sorry, everyone.
It's not that loud. There's no way.
So, anyways, the Dringir are present in the young adult novel, and also in one of the middle grade novels, and very heavily focused in the comics. The comics actually focus on the Dringir a lot.
Oh, okay.
And I have a lot of thoughts on the Dringir and discussion. I want to eventually talk about the Dringir and how all that works. But we're not there, of course, just yet. But yeah, I got lots of thoughts on that.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, and obviously the main threat, of course, is the Nile. At this specific moment, obviously, Panetta did something stupid, and he sent one of his cloud ships, and he tried to take over the Innovator. Yeah, that big ship that they're making for the Republic Fair. I think it's called the Innovator, something like that. And of course, they get murked. At a price, obviously, because Bell Zetafar's getting a little hoit there, not just a little. Anyway, but so the Republic's on high alert. So the Nile are trying to be low key, and obviously Markian Row is basically taking over the Nile at this point. Anyway, I'm just rambling, but that's where I'm at, and I've enjoyed it thus far, and I'm excited to know that it's even getting crazier and better very soon. So. Yeah, I'm excited to read it. So, anyway,
Yeah,
we could probably keep going on this.
I could talk about it.
I'm sure you could, and I could too, from what I've read.
And here's the thing. Again, for those of you who have not gotten into the High Republic yet, if you are a Star Wars fan, give the High Republic a chance.
As someone, this is a good perspective for me. I don't like. Well, I say that. I had a bad viewpoint of reading. Right, I had a bad idea of what it was. It was mostly for work, mostly for study. So anyway, I didn't want to read it. Didn't feel like reading it. But as a avid Star Wars fan who didn't read that much, I've thoroughly enjoyed it thus far. And like I said, and as I understand, it's supposed to get better and better and better.
You're about to hit where it gets really good, in my opinion.
So if you are a Star Wars fan who doesn't entirely love reading like Andrew does or whoever, right? Yeah, give it a chance. I've enjoyed it, and it's actually really helped me get back into reading because it's given me something I've liked, I've been able to deep dive into, and obviously hopefully get even better. So anyway, so we talked about that a lot, but let's go ahead and move on.
Yeah.
So we're going to get into our community discussion section. So like I said, the community discussion section, if you're not aware, is every week we have a podcast. We will reach out to our community of Jedi Eternal, and we begin to ask you all one question every week. And then from there, we will discuss your guys' answer, every single one of them. And in this week's question, we asked, let me get to it. If you could pilot any ship in all of Star Wars, so whether it be old or current canon, what ship would that be? So we had, I think, 8 answers. So awesome! Thank you guys so much for participating. It's awesome.
that is so good and just makes me so happy.
I know.
I love when we get a bunch of people, some that are very near and dear to our hearts.
Oh yeah,
it was amazing to see Noah Aguilar.
Yeah,
every time I see Noah Aguilar, it just makes me
heart
smile. I'm just like, it's
Noah.
just
we're not trying to give Noah unfair home
no, yeah,
but Noah's literally one of our very first supporters.
He was the first, I believe.
He was the first.
Well, outside of people like we
know
and family, somebody we did not know at all. I think he's from California, or was at least at the time of when we were talking with him.
So Noah, if you're listening to this, we really appreciate your support, and I know you kind of have stuff, you can't listen all the time, you have to get caught up and stuff, but we're very glad that you participated this week, so shout out to you.
Yeah.
So let's go over our answers, and we're gonna just kind of run through these, and we'll give ours because we have so many answers. But so if you could pilot any ship, so Corey Allen Wise says the Millennium Falcon, of course, and yeah, I think that's a classic answer, and I think for me that was mine for a long time. Millennium Falcon is awesome. I mean, it's one of the fastest ships in the galaxy. I mean, I don't think we could argue that for sure. Alex Mason comes in and says the X-Wing. Again, another hugely iconic ship there. Of course, that's the kind of the poster ship for the OT, the original trilogy, and specifically Luke. So yeah, I wouldn't mind piloting that myself. And then we actually have a lot of similar answers here because it's sick, and it is my answer too. I'm not gonna lie. But Philip Mihurin, Noah Aguilar, and Brooks Long all say the N1 Starfighter. So Noah elaborates and says, it is my favorite ship since I was a kid. I even made a 3D model out of it. I just love it. Very cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and Brooks Long specifically says Mando's N1s.
Oh, okay.
So it's even more specific.
Very specific, yeah.
So I didn't want to kind of jump ahead, but I kind of talked about it last week on our previous episode, but that is pretty much my favorite Star Wars ship. I love so many of them, but that is my personal favorite. So I am on a same vibe as you guys there. The infamous JB says, without a doubt, the Outrider Dash Rendar ship from Shadows of the Empire. I believe we see the same model of ship in Rebels. I will have to investigate. So it's kind of canon. Well, the model of the ship is anyway. So yeah, absolutely. The Outrider is pretty sick. Excuse me. Yeah, it is very cool.
Well, and leave it to JB to go with the deep cut. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, because I did say old canon too. So
I love it.
Very nice, JB.
Good choice.
Love the deep cuts there. And then last but not least, our good friend Stuart Martin says the Slave One. And so yeah, I mean that's a very classic one too. Again, all of these are wonderful answers. I think I would be ecstatic to try to pilot any one of them. I already kind of said my answer. Drew, if you could pilot any ship in all of Star Wars, old or new canon, which one would it be?
See, I struggled with this. I struggled big time. I mean, I've thought about it, and it's hard for me to really give a definite answer, to be honest. Because I like a lot of, honestly, everything that's been said so far. I'm a fan of.
Right.
But I will say, I think I have to just mention a couple things.
Sure.
So I'm a really big fan of the Delta 7.
Okay.
So that's the Jedi starfighters.
I'm so sorry. Hold on. So very sorry. I missed an answer.
Oh, you did?
Oh my goodness. So sorry. Robert Allen Wood says the Delta 7 Jedi.
Okay.
Starfighter.
Yeah. Sweet.
Very much apologize,
cool.
Robert. But anyway, yes. So
Good
that's
choice.
what made me think of it. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome. So yeah, it's a Jedi starfighter. We see Kenobi and them use those.
And I didn't even think about it before that answer, but that I love that when we see him, and specifically episode 3, right?
Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
At the beginning.
Love those.
Yeah.
Love those.
Yeah, so those are very cool. I also like this is kind of a brand new thing, but I like the Jedi Vectors.
And
which
that's
are
what I was about
from
to say.
the High Republic.
I don't know what they look like. Do they look similar to the
No,
Delta 7s?
they're very different.
Really? I'm gonna look it up real quick.
They're very thin, there's not like a whole lot to them.
Yeah.
But what I like about them is that they're utilized exclusively by the Jedi Order and are basically made to work with the Force. So
the
like
Force and their lightsabers.
yeah, and like
that.
their lightsabers activate it like a key and all this cool stuff.
Yeah, very cool.
So it's very, very interesting to me. Kind of one of the more interesting ships, in my opinion, in a while for Star Wars to introduce.
Yeah.
And it's just so I think that is very, very cool. But then I have to give a shout out, and no one else did, surprisingly, but I have to give a shout out to the X-Wing.
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry. Someone
Alex did.
Oh, Alex
Yeah.
did the X-Wing? Okay,
Yeah.
never mind. Good job, Alex. The X-Wing, of course, is like, it's just like the gold standard.
Yeah, of
right? You know what I
course,
mean?
yeah.
Like when you think
Well,
Star
that's
Wars,
like the staple of the original trilogy. You know what I'm saying?
You think about the X-Wing, and for me, when it comes to Star Wars, I like to be in those smaller ships.
Sure.
That are very fast and you can maneuver them very well. Like another shout out to the A-Wing. I like the A-Wing as well.
Yeah.
I'm all about those smaller ones, and so yeah. But anyways, I had to name a couple things.
No, and I say the N1 because I really do love it and I always have.
The N1's beautiful. It's beautiful
but you're right. I'm kind of the same boat. At the end of the day, I could pick any one of these and be happy. And I almost feel bad for saying the N1 because there's so many other ones I love. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
Anyway, with that being said, thank you all so very much for answering our questions. We love talking about this, and
it brings us so much joy when you guys comment and give answers. It means a lot to us.
Yeah, and if anybody's out there who's like, man, I kind of wish I would have said something, or I do have a favorite ship, I just didn't say anything. Please, next time we want to hear from you. And that's kind of how. That's kind of why we moved from the Q&A to the community discussion, because we want it to be more accessible to everybody. Maybe you're someone who's new to Star Wars and you don't necessarily know what to ask. That's why we want to do the community discussion, where we ask you guys a pretty simplistic simplistic question that anybody can answer. And that's kind of why we wanted to do its first community engagement. So please reach out to us on our next week's episode. We would love to hear your guys' answer. So. Without further ado, though, we're going to go to our main topic for this week. And of course, as you well know, for those who've been listening, we're going to be reviewing the penultimate episode of Book of Boba Fett, episode 6. So, like I said, we're kind of just going to jump into it. So, spoiler alert, that's kind of how we've been doing it. We're just going to jump right into it. So, wow. What a wild, just insane episode.
Where do you even start with an episode like this?
I don't know.
I have so many thoughts. I think we just need to start with the beginning, kind of like we did last week, and go through kind of each scene and try to give our thoughts scene by scene. Because I mean, I could go on a whole rabbit hole into this episode.
Yeah, so let's say off the bat. So the title of this episode is "From the Desert Comes a Stranger."
Yeah, and I think that even that title alone has multiple meanings in this episode.
Well, and so obviously we're gonna get to it because we don't want to cut to the chase. But obviously, the first scene maybe makes you think, from the desert comes a stranger, right? We see. First scene of the episode is Cobb Vanth, and he's back in what is it called? Anyway,
What are you talking about?
Their town.
Mos Pelgo.
Mos Pelgo, yeah. I kept wanting to say Mos Espo.
Which,
obviously knows not
shout
true.
out, they renamed it
Well, yeah, I was going to say
to
that.
Freetown,
Which matches.
which is where what happens in Aftermath. The Aftermath novels.
Yeah,
they
yeah.
name it Freetown.
Which
So
is so cool.
very cool.
But obviously we see him. He's the marshal, right? And he is intercepting a trade deal between some of the Pike Syndicate selling spice, and he's interrupting this because he does not want any of this junk in his community, right?
Yeah.
And so obviously and another cool thing is that they really purposefully establish how quick of a draw he is for other reasons we'll talk about later. But there's 4 Pikes and 3 of the 4 draw their guns. 3 people. And he pulls out and shoots all 3 of them before they can get a shot off.
What an amazing character this guy is.
He's so true.
Which I loved him in the second season of The Mandalorian.
Oh, yeah.
I was so happy to see him back, and he just continues to be an outstanding character.
Absolutely.
He's just super likable. He is, he is someone to be feared, not to be messed around with, but he's also a super respectful character as well.
Sure.
And he definitely has that like good old cowboy vibe,
He's like
right?
charming
He's like
cowboy,
the charming cowboy,
Yeah.
Kind of like a John Wayne, like you know what I
Yeah,
mean, like
yeah.
the classic hero type personality, all that stuff.
Very a nicer Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So all that is really cool, and I was so happy to see him back. But come on, somebody give this man some armor. My man is
Seriously.
wearing just like a shirt and
Yeah.
like just
Street
like
clothes. Come
yeah.
on.
I mean, he went from having Boba Fett's armor to now he's got nothing. Like somebody help this guy out.
Seriously, come on. So
He don't even have like leather. He's
Nothing,
got
man.
nothing.
my
He's
man's free balling out here. Well, not quite, but
Can you say that on our podcast?
no, I'm just.
Can you say that in our?
Why? What does that mean to you, huh? I meant that he was, he didn't have anything, other than his regular clothes. Okay, we're getting off track here, off of a mistake.
Oh boy.
Anyway, we're now PG rather than G.
Make sure, kids, that your parents will listen to this podcast with you, so they can explain to you what free ball is.
Ask your kids, ask your parents what free balling means. Wow, we are just tanking right now.
Oh
People are
boy,
just
we're
unsubscribing.
just dropping like flies right now.
All right, anyway.
We just lost all 5 of our patrons.
So, anyway,
Oh.
long story short, our man is out here with clothes on, but no armor. And so I mean, the fact that he's able to survive this far and fight off the Pike Syndicate to some degree, the little remnants that come through, it's pretty crazy. But clearly you can tell that he's like, he feels a little, abandoned or whatever you want to say without his armor. So anyway, but he destroys those 3, tells the other one, say, go back to your people and say, we don't, this is a gift. You can keep your money. We're going to allow you to leave, but anybody that comes back again will probably get lost forever, But he tells them to keep, or let the spice stay there, and obviously he ends up kicking it over, which is just so cool because again,
So cool.
he could literally, as he says, retire with this. He could get his own armor. He could do whatever he
He
wants.
can do whatever he wants.
But he's so resolved in his, dedication or whatever, in his
and
morals.
also just like the morals, yeah. Like,
that he literally kicks over.
he just kicks it over. That's
Let's
it.
just say hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of spice. I mean, I'm just throwing a number out there, but very cool. And it just shows, it makes you just like Cobb Vanth that much
he's
more.
just- such
You
a
know what I'm
great
saying?
character. Yeah.
So cool. So then we go next scene over. We see kind of changes subjects, right? And we're now with Mando. And Mando is now, and I don't know the planet off the top of my head, but he's going to see Grogu. And they go to this mountainous, forested planet.
So to be honest, I don't know that we know where this is.
Yeah, it's new from what we've seen, at least, I think.
So I believe we are on the planet that that Luke's future Jedi temple is on. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
But I don't even know if that has ever been named
Right.
in canon.
Right. Never mind. But yeah, so I'm trying to look it up here, and there's nothing that's really coming up. So, but yeah, I think you're right, and like I said, we don't know canonically, especially now, and I don't think there ever was a name. So, but anyway, beautiful mountainous forested planet. And Mando gets there, and the first thing we see is he's being hailed by R2D2.
Yes,
which was so great. It's
immediately I got so excited.
I know,
as soon as I saw R2, I was like, "Here we go."
Yes.
I was like, "Here we go,
let's go, baby." It never gets old. It never gets old. So, but there's nobody else but R2 at this point, and R2 is leading him to this location. All of a sudden, we see all these like caterpillar droids carrying stones, and as we walk up, we start to see them building this stone hut type thing or whatever, and it's just really cool. But he's waiting on Luke, and he's like, "Where are they at?" And R2 shuts down, and he's having to wait.
Yeah, and I've seen different people's opinions on this, but are you in agreement with me that this is the beginning of Luke's temple?
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, I totally believe that.
And I want to take a break here real quick to say that like this has kind of big meaning for the future, and the reason I say that is this is a prime example of they're not ignoring the sequel trilogy.
Yeah, it's very true.
Okay,
Yeah.
we've had rumors about how they're gonna pretend like it never happened, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
This to me is a big indication of like, no, the sequel trilogy is happening, and we're telling you, we're filling in the gap.
Yeah.
Between
Could
what
be,
happens,
yeah.
but what happened in the original trilogy to the sequel trilogy, you're gonna start to see some of these things that are eventually gonna lead into the sequel trilogy, whether you like it or not.
Which, an argument could be made that at the end of the day, let's not even talk about the sequel trilogy. We all know that that Luke had an academy, right? Even in the old canon, we had the Jedi Academy. I mean, that was one of the games. So we all know he had that. So people could say, well, yeah, but that doesn't necessarily have to directly tie to that. I don't know. But yeah, I think you're right. It very well could be kind of that go between the bridge between what we see.
I think the fact that the hut that's being built is identical to some of the things that we've already seen from the sequel trilogy.
Sure.
I think is why I'm saying like they're being very they're making sure that when you see that hut, you go,
I remember that.
We remember that from the sequel trilogy.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
So I think it's very intentional that they're, and I'm just saying in a bigger picture view, it's telling me that they're saying, hey, we are going to sprinkle in some stuff that is going to kind of give more into the sequel trilogy, which Mando season 2 arguably has a little bit of that as well. Right?
Sure. Yeah.
We're still not entirely sure what's going on with that, but
right.
There's some cloning or something going on, right?
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, Mando eventually, almost falls asleep because he's waiting for so long, and he gets awoken by none other than Ahsoka, who makes an appearance once again, and she's kind of intercepting a little bit here. And before he can go see Grogu, she wants to talk to him first. So they take a walk through the bamboo forest there. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, and so I don't know about you, but when I all of a sudden see Ahsoka show up, that was really unexpected. Like,
I wasn't expecting it, but I didn't think it was crazy. You know what I'm saying?
I don't think it was crazy, but it's just like when I saw Ahsoka, I was like, oh, okay. Which it's interesting because we had never gotten the first meeting of Luke and Ahsoka.
Yeah, that's a good point. That is a very good point. Yeah, we never saw that them.
We haven't seen that. But here, they clearly have already had that encounter.
Yeah.
She's on the planet for some reason.
Yeah.
But it never really answers why she was there.
Right, exactly.
And once Mando leaves, as we see, she leaves too.
Yeah.
And he's like, and Luke's like, I'm getting ahead of myself, but I just want to, but Luke's like, will I ever see you again? And she's like
it's possible.
Basically like, I mean,
it's not the last time
with the Force, what happens.
Yeah.
And and so I just think it's interesting that we see this encounter where they're already interacting, but we didn't see like the true first meeting of
Yeah, so
them.
I'm wondering if we're ever going to get that via comic or something
I
like
think
that.
we're going to get it some way or another, but
Yeah.
but we can move on for now.
Yeah.
I just want to mention that.
So, kind of traveling back in time here a little bit. So, Ahsoka is taking him through the Force, kind of nonchalantly leading him to where Grogu and Luke are. But basically, she's just talking to him like, why are you here? You know, he's like, I need to see Grogu. And she's like, are you doing this for yourself? Are you doing it for him? You know, are you coming here because, you know, you think it would help Grogu, or do you think it's just because you're trying to fill that void in your heart? You know what I'm saying? To see him again and not be as lonely. And he can't answer that. Like, basically, obviously we know the answer, right? But he eventually decides he's not going to go actually talk to him. He sees him up on the hill with Luke meditating and stuff like that. Long story short, obviously he does give her what was forged for him through the Beskar from the armorer, and says, just at least give this to him. I want him to be protected. And around this time, we do see a clip of Luke and Grogu training together.
Well, so it shows that they're up there meditating, and like Luke's got his eyes closed and he's meditating, and then Grogu's like trying to do it, but Grogu sees a frog, and Grogu can't stop looking at the frog.
He has one eye,
and
one
then,
eye's creeping open.
Yeah,
you know?
it's so adorable.
So cute.
But then Grogu uses the Force on the frog, and then Luke sees it, and he's like, Grogu. And then Luke brings all the frogs out of the
100 frogs or something. You know, I'm being exaggerating.
and Grogu's just like amazed.
But I think it was a cool moment to show, like, hey, this is what you could do if you really tapped into the Force, if you really focused and trained and became dedicated. This is something you could do.
Right.
And he had that kind of realization, I think, because he looked at his hands and was like, oh, you know.
Yeah, and at this point in the episode, I'm just like, I can't believe we're getting all this. Like,
whoa. First of all, dude, Luke looks amazing. He looks phenomenal. I was like, obviously in the final episode of season 2 of Mando, a lot of people had some, like, I thought it was amazing too, but you could tell there was some digital things going on. Sure. Obviously, but people had some complaints. But dude, for me, I'm sure that people who complained still,
so well.
It looked. It looked like Luke from Return of the Jedi. Like, you know, it looked like he was there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So anyway.
No, and here's the thing, like, we can have Luke Skywalker again. We can have Luke Skywalker in like we used to after the original trilogy, and we watched the sequel trilogy, and Luke's old now, and I thought to myself, like, this is it. This is it. This is what we have of Luke Skywalker. We're not going to see him on the screen like we want. We're only going to get comics and books and stuff of more of his story. But then, we get this sneak peek, in a sense, in the last season of Luke Skywalker again. I was like, wow, that's really cool. I was like, but can they really?
And we talked about this.
And we've talked about it, like, well, they'll have to recast or whatever
if they want to continue using
they're going to
have to.
But here's the thing.
Dude.
After this, I don't think they have to.
No.
I don't think they have to get Sebastian Stan. They've always talked about doing that. Like,
and
this works for me.
I said this last time, but I prefer the CGI because Sebastian Stan, yes, with the makeup and the right lighting, kind of looks like Luke. But like at the end of the day, you're gonna see Sebastian Stan. But this was Luke. This was Luke.
This was Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker.
Yes.
And I love it. It's amazing to me because now I can think, this could just be the beginning of Luke Skywalker stories.
Yes.
We've always wanted to see Luke Skywalker as a top tier Jedi master, just doing all this crazy stuff, right? That dream is now more alive than ever.
Sure.
Because now we have almost 30 years of Luke Skywalker that we can fill in, and we can see him do all kinds of stuff, and I'm here for it.
Please capitalize on this.
I am here for it and support it 100%.
Just the thought of that makes me so happy. But anyway, we're not going to drag on this, but just I had to talk for a second about how good it looked.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So anyway, so Mando leaves, right? And Mando leaves, and he recognizes that he can't do this, and he can't hurt Grogu by letting him see him, because they talk about how close of a connection they have and how close the bond is, and if he sees him, he may not continue training. So as Mando leaves, Ahsoka goes up to Luke, and they're training, and Yoda.
Well, so Luke goes with
does it cut
Grogu. So Luke's taking Grogu, and Grogu, he's walking with Grogu.
Yeah.
And he uses the Force to keep like pushing Grogu forward.
Yeah, that
it's
was
so
awesome.
I
I
love
loved
and Grogu's
it.
like, oh.
Yeah.
Every time. So like to keep.
I'm missing a huge part. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm missing a huge part here.
So at that point he starts talking about Yoda and like the
Yes.
wisdom that
Yes.
Yoda shared.
Yeah.
With him, and then that's when he tells Grogu that he'll help him.
Like, what do you remember of your kind?
Yeah.
You know.
And basically he realizes Grogu doesn't really remember anything about his past.
Yeah.
So then Luke's like, let me help you remember.
Yeah.
And so he uses like, and I don't know if we've ever really, how much we've seen of this like mind.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not saying it's the first time but
I know it's not the first time. I just don't remember where.
But we haven't seen a lot of it.
Yeah.
And so he uses the Force on Grogu to bring Grogu's memories back.
Yeah.
And what we see is very cool.
Oh man.
We see the 501st clone troopers
gosh.
attacking the Jedi Temple.
You know, Order 66.
Yeah,
Oh
and
man.
how cool it was to see
Dude,
that.
So cool.
So, and we knew Grogu was around at the temple.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Grogu was in the temple at that point. Of course, during that scene when it's happening and the Jedi are fighting and the 501st is coming up, I was yelling
Yeah.
at the screen. I said, "Show Hayden Christensen, you cowards!"
Dude, I knew,
Show
like,
Hayden Christensen.
see,
I was like,
Vader,
"Do it."
see,
I was like,
Vader,
"Show
see.
him, show him." I was
Dude,
like, "You cowards!"
even just like a slight little in
Yeah,
the background, he
right,
comes around
right.
the corner and then it cuts off. I mean, I would
Anything.
accept that.
They didn't do
because
it.
they're already
They
bringing it
didn't do
back
it,
for
though.
Kenobi.
I know,
Come on,
I know,
come on.
I know. They
Dude,
didn't do it,
I
though.
would. Dude, I would have juiced my drawers if that. I would have pooped my pants. I would have pooped my pants. Seriously. I mean, if he came
What are
around
you
the corner,
turning this podcast into?
I can talk about poop whenever I want. Anyway, no, I mean seriously though, if they showed him, I would have died because I was that same thought came to my mind like, dude,
Yeah.
show Anakin, show Anakin.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's a huge thing, and it kind of cuts off where they're like, oh, you know, he's as if they're kind of pointing to him like, hey, there's another one, go get him, and then that's where it kind of cuts off. But seriously though, to show that moment was just amazing. It was just so cool. It was surreal almost because how cool it was. Clearly, I don't remember where the timeline of this episode, so you take it from here.
So it showed that one thing I want to mention is it does show a symbol on the doors of the temple there, and some people have speculated that that's like a connection to Bear Sophie or whatever her name is, because it was shown in her quarters during an episode of the Clone Wars.
Okay,
But I don't think that I think it's more like a symbol of the living quarters in the Jedi Temple or
be.
something.
yeah,
Because I don't see why it would be on more than one door. Like I don't think that would be
Yeah,
her
right.
emblem. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I don't
something
think I
to
noticed
note.
that. I guess I didn't notice that.
So from there, it goes back to let's see here. I'm trying to think. Ahsoka.
It was him kind of just training. It was like the training sequence, right?
Yeah. So he puts him on in his backpack like Yoda, right?
So, okay, so we're gonna talk more about this, but how awesome is this? It's just like poetic writing here of how full circle this is. That the master was Yoda training Luke, and he was on his back, and then now Luke is training Baby Yoda, right? And he's on his back. I mean, it's just such a cool, like, poetic full circle thing there.
Yeah. So, so he's running through, hopping around, just like that training sequence
Yes.
in Dagobah
Yes.
has the Grogu, and it goes, and then he like goes high up into the trees, and then
Yeah.
the Force theme hits,
Oh,
and it's
so good. Like literally, I got like chills, like butterflies when that happened, dude. It was
Yeah.
crazy.
so good. And then we get Grogu bouncing on a log. He's got like one foot out, and he's bouncing on the log, and he keeps falling down.
Yeah.
And that's when Luke brings out first he brings out his lightsaber,
Oh, that
and
was
he's doing like a routine with his blade,
Yeah.
and then he brings out the training remote,
Yeah, that was cool
So,
to see.
another cool
Very
thing.
cool to see.
and and wait, when does he tell? I mean, we may have missed this already, but I loved it. And this is all kind of scattered. I don't know that we're telling it all in the right order, but like I'm trying to cover as much of it as I can. But at one point, he tells Yoda to jump.
Yeah.
Or not Yoda, sorry, Grogu to jump.
Cardinal
and
sin.
it was so funny.
Yeah, he's like,
he tells Grogu to jump.
Comes up like an inch off the ground. That's really all you
It
got.
reminded me of when asking my daughter Caitlin to jump. When Caitlin jumps, she jumps like that. So.
It reminds me you ask a kid to jump, and they basically
like,
just bring their legs up. They don't actually jump.
Right.
Anyway.
And then so he tells him to do. He asks him to try again, and he does the same way. Then I think he brings out the training remote.
Yeah, I think that was about the time. Yeah.
And then it zaps him and
flies backwards.
Yeah, falls backwards. And he gets back up and he does again, and he does a Yoda flip. Like it's and they purposely made it look like the way Yoda does it.
Oh,
right?
yeah,
like
100%.
like you could see it, and that was amazing. And so
good.
he starts like flipping around, and then it like jumps forward, and he's like flipping around on the rocks, and like he's just going
river area.
Yeah, I mean he's just going crazy.
He's a little Yoda. I mean,
yeah, but he's just an even littler Yoda.
It was so cool because, like I said, it's just an awesome callback through this whole episode about Yoda, and the comparison to him and stuff is so cool.
Yeah, and that's when Ahsoka comes up to Luke.
Yeah,
and we get this really our first
true meeting
of them together, and it's really cool.
Yeah,
and she says something about how he is Grogu's, or you've trained him well, I think she says.
Yeah.
And Luke, in typical Luke fashion, kind of doubting himself. He goes, "Oh, I think he's more just remembering."
Yeah, I'm hoping to remember.
And
then he says,
then I'm actually teaching him.
Yeah, and then Luke says basically like I just don't know if his heart's in it, and it's so cool. But Ahsoka's like, you're just like your father was, and such a cool.
I know, and that was
moment.
really cool,
So cool.
really cool to hear her say. And
yeah,
so much history there, right?
I know. And that's what's okay. And I'm getting slightly off track here, and we talked about this last episode too. But for people who are just watching this for the first time, right, who is not super in-depth into Star Wars, it's a cool moment, sure, whatever. But then people who like us or some of our listeners, right, who's just absorbed every piece of Star Wars medium, it's so rich with lore, and it's so rich with callbacks through episode 5 and 6 of callbacks to all the different movies. It's just and that's what's very cool about the writing of this show and how they've been doing it. It's like if you're watching the first time, it's cool, but here's the cool little tidbits for the people who have always been watching, and will reward you for knowing about this or something.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah. Just amazing.
Yeah.
So they have that, and that's when he's like, "Well, I see you again," and she's like, "Perhaps," and then she walks off.
She gives him the gift.
Oh yeah, and she does give him that, and he's like, "Well, what do I do?"
Yeah.
And she's like, "Trust your instincts."
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's about where it ends right there.
Yeah.
For
So
that
then,
scene.
So I think at that point we go back to Tatooine.
Yeah, Mando.
With Mando, right?
Yeah.
And Mando goes to meet up with with Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Who's been missing for
finally
a special guest appearance by Boba Fett in the Boba Fett show. We're going to talk about that in a little bit too.
Yeah.
I have some thoughts I wanted to really get into about this series as a whole.
Sure.
After we get through talking through the episode, but we'll get to it.
Yeah.
This is an extra long episode today, but I mean, what do you expect when you get an episode like this?
Sounds crazy here. Yeah.
So, then after that we go, and he goes to Boba Fett's people.
Yeah.
And he says he's there to see Fett, or actually, I think he says Fennec.
Shand. Yeah.
And
I'm here on the request of Fennec Shand.
So he goes in there to the whole group there, and they got the mayor's major domo in there, and he's like,
just being typical of that character.
He's because they're saying he fled. He's like, oh, actually, he's on a scheduled vacation.
It's like, shut up. Oh, okay.
I have to say, I like that character.
Funny.
Yeah,
it's growing on me.
Yeah,
certainly growing on me.
So they're saying that they need more foot soldiers, right? Like they don't have enough. They need more to be able to pull this off. They're like, we have Mando, and we got Chrysanthemum, and they're kind of like the experienced muscle, but we need just some like
we got the mods to patrol the streets, but we need an army basically. And then,
So that's where Mando's like, well, I don't remember exactly what he says, but basically he thinks he might have.
I think I
somebody
could
to go
help
to.
there or something like that. You know.
And so
yeah.
he goes to Freetown,
Yeah.
and that's where he meets up with the good old
Corn cob.
himself.
Yeah.
And I really like this because basically he's like, I don't remember what he says. Something about how are you doing without your armor or something.
Yeah.
And his response was more careful.
More careful. Yeah. Yeah. And he's like,
so-
where's the little guy?
Yeah. And sorry, my nose is like itching really bad.
Oh my.
So it's cool to see them back together, and and also they fly through at one point, and you see on a sandcrawler at the top, you see the crate dragon's
yes, that was
skull
so
in
cool.
there.
They're like waving
And
at him, like
when they go and sit down in the bar to
Yes.
talk, or the canteen or whatever, the like rib cage of, I'm pretty sure the crate dragon
Yeah.
is like
It
inside of there now.
it's so cool.
They're like using it
So
as
cool.
decoration.
I mean, why wouldn't you? Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So they're talking. He's basically just like, hey, I need help. And what's interesting is, he's basically he says like, we're square.
Yeah, we're even.
I don't have any reason why I should have to help you.
Yeah, I gave you the armor and you helped defeat the crate dragon. We're
Yeah.
done here.
But basically, in the good old Cobb Vanth fashion,
Yeah.
you can tell he's willing
He's
to do it, right?
sympathetic,
He's willing to
you
help.
know. Yeah.
But you got the bartender over there, and he's like,
That's a city folk issue right there, boy. Yeah.
and so I don't remember exactly how they end their conversation, but I'm pretty sure it's one of those things like he's gonna talk to his people.
But
And
basically, he's like, this is not really our problem. And Mando just basically says, it will be soon enough.
Yeah.
It might just be
And-
the city now, but if they take over the city, then they're going to start coming out to you.
Right.
And he's like, so at the end of the day,
Yeah.
it's going to become your problem one way or another. And he's like, okay, well, I'll talk about it, basically.
Yeah. So then Mando flies off,
Yeah.
and then you see in the distance a figure walking towards the Freetown.
And
Now, I don't know about you.
I think we're about to say the same thing. Maybe.
Well, what were you gonna say?
I was going to say, I don't know about you, but literally as soon as I saw it, immediately I'm like, no way.
Yeah, okay,
No
yeah.
way. No
That's
way.
what I was gonna say. So as soon as I saw it, I went.
Yeah.
I
No
said,
way.
"That's Cad Bane."
How do we know? I don't even know how we
I don't
even
know.
knew.
But as soon as I saw a figure walking in the distance,
Yeah.
like I knew. I just knew.
I
it.
don't know how I knew, but I knew.
And so I just started saying, I was watching it with Tara, and I was just like, "That's Cad Bane."
Like,
That's
there's
Cad
no
Bane.
way. There's no way.
And so
Yeah.
he's slowly walking up, just super slow, and of
yeah.
course Cobb Vanth can tell like this is trouble, so he's like coming. He goes out to the middle, and you get your typical standoff,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like cowboy standoff.
Yeah. Very reminiscent of the good, bad,
yeah,
bad and
yeah,
ugly.
uh-huh.
You know what I'm saying?
But oh man, just so well done. This
Yeah.
whole like part here
Beautiful.
is so well done. Gives me chills just talking about it and thinking about it.
I do believe that they brought back the same voice actor,
They
if I'm
did.
not mistaken.
Yes,
So,
that
which
is
really
correct.
cool.
Yeah.
Doesn't have as much modulation as he used to, but that might be
Yeah,
part of
and
it,
so
you know?
I know that they. So, a couple things.
Yeah.
First of all, I know some people are not super impressed with the way he looks in the show.
Yeah.
I am not one of those people. I actually think he looks amazing. And does he look a little different than his Clone Wars thing? Yes,
Yeah.
but here's two different things.
Yeah.
Number one, this is not animation, so
Right.
you're going to expect some differences. I mean, Anakin and Kenobi didn't look anything like their,
Right.
you know what I mean? Especially
well,
Anakin. Anakin
Yeah,
looked
Kenobi
nothing
looked
like,
a little bit more.
Anakin looked nothing like
posed.
Hayden Christensen.
Well, no, Count Dooku. Have you seen those memes?
Yes, I have.
Where they
Where
morph their faces.
yeah, morph the face
He's
to
like
actually
a
look.
6 foot long face.
It's good stuff.
So good. So yeah, you got a point
yeah,
there. You got a
right.
point there.
So that's the first thing.
Yeah.
But second of all, we're like years later. Like
Yeah,
Cad
I
Bane,
don't even know how many years, right?
Cad
Like
Bane has went
20
through,
maybe?
yeah, something like that. So Cad Bane's went through a lot of stuff
Sure.
since then,
Yeah.
and
yeah.
so he's like, he's older,
Yeah.
and and so I think the faded color could be part of that. Some of that stuff. Also, like the teeth. I've heard some people complain about his teeth.
How sharp they were.
Yeah, and I actually think that's great. It made him more menacing.
More menacing,
that he has
for sure.
that.
Yeah, the only see, and I'm kind of in the middle, more leaning towards where you're at. But I do have immediately when I saw him, like I was so excited for at first I didn't even think about it. But as I kind of watched it again, because I watched it second time with my dad, and I'm like, man.
What'd your dad say?
My dad, that's pretty cool. He's like, I know that's an important character. I have no clue.
I was gonna be like, this episode's stupid.
Well, so
that's what he was saying. Remember,
literally, when we got to the point where it was Luke and Grogu,
yeah,
and he's doing he's like, all right, this is getting weird now. Got all that Force voodoo junk.
Maybe we should. Maybe we should add to our Patreon.
Brent's thoughts.
we just put a camera on your dad as he watches the episodes, and just have the commentary of your dad as he watches that.
That would be funny. So I'm watching it again, and I'm like, the only major complaint, the whole skin color thing totally makes sense to me. The shorter brim hat makes sense. Even the teeth, I like that because it's a little off to me, but I do like it's a little more menacing. The only thing that I didn't like is how short his face was, and I can't show you because there's not a camera on me, but it looked like he was scrunching up his nose and like snarling his teeth the entire time, and it's like a big pudgy nose right there, and I'm like, I feel like if they just made his face a little bit longer, I think I would have been totally fine with it. That was the only complaint I had. But overall, I think it was a good adaptation for sure. They nailed the eyes and the voice. It's a little bit less modulation, but it's live action, so it makes sense. But overall, I loved how the interpretation was overall, though.
Yeah, and so I thought it was great. Very menacing. Very, I thought it was done so well. Yeah. I was very excited to see him in it. But here's the bigger like canon questions or excitement that I have for this is you have to understand is there's history between Cad Bane and Boba Fett.
Yeah.
So some of you may not realize that, and that's why I would like to bring this up.
Boba Fett is
a
cold-hearted killer and worked with the Empire.
Yeah. So there's history there, and one of the things that was going to happen in Clone Wars before it got canceled originally, that we never saw, but I would say there's a good chance they're keeping it canon.
Yeah.
Is that eventually Cad Bane became kind of like a mentor figure to Boba Fett. Okay?
Yeah.
And Boba Fett worked under him. But then eventually they got into it, and Boba Fett gets shot in the helmet by Cad Bane.
And that's where the
dent comes from in his helmet.
I really do hope that they keep that.
I hope that they keep that as kind of the history, and it does make for a meaningful enemy to Boba Fett because they have a long history.
Sure.
And so I think that could be very interesting to see their encounter in the next step, because you assume they're going to encounter each other in the next episode, right?
You would imagine so. Come on. I mean, that makes sense.
I think that history there could be very interesting, and I think it'd be cool if they showed maybe a small flashback
would be cool.
To that moment, even since we never truly got that.
Yeah.
So that could be cool. There's a lot of different things they could do with it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So I think that's a very interesting to think about, but let's hurry and close up the rest of what happens in this episode so that we can talk about some of these bigger things.
So immediately the next thing is kind of the start of this war. These two pikes, they go with their little.
Whoa! We never finished what happened.
Oh, duh. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
So they have the standoff, and then the stupid deputy doesn't listen to Cobb Vanth, and he keeps telling him to go inside, and he doesn't. And the deputy's about to shoot, right?
Yeah,
and you can tell Cobb Vanth, which is just a superb actor. You can tell what he's thinking and everything without even saying anything. You can tell he starts to move his head a little bit, and he's worried that he's going to do it. But his focus is on the other guy. When finally the deputy starts to like take his gun out, he turns his head, and then immediately Cad Bane shoots him.
Yeah.
So so Cad Bane shoots him, and then just
Murks the deputy.
straight up destroys that deputy. And honestly, the deputy kind of deserved it.
He deserved it. I'm glad he died. So
I mean, the deputy is dead.
I mean,
Like,
there's no question.
and there's it's up in the air on if the marshal's alive. I think he is.
Yeah,
I think he's alive.
if
I
you
think he's-
freeze frame, it hits his shoulder.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's like the top of his, like up there in his
Yeah.
shoulder. I think he's fine.
Yeah.
He's just injured.
Yeah. Which is interesting because it's like, I don't know. There's no way that Cad Bane, as infamous as he is, there's no way that he accidentally
You're
shot him in
saying
the
it was
shoulder.
an accident.
You know what I'm saying?
To shoot him up. You're saying,
saying it's not
he
an accident.
intentionally
Yes.
didn't kill him.
I don't know why that would be yet, but I don't know.
Well, I'm with you. You would think that like his shot's going to be dead on, but at
Yeah.
the same time, maybe just the
fact there's two people
fact
and he's
that
pulling. Yeah.
the fact that deputy over there was messing around, maybe that could be
Threw him off.
Yeah, I don't know, but that's a good point, and there may be more to that.
Yeah, we'll see.
But we see. So, anyways, but yeah, like my wife was like, "Do you think the marshal's dead?" And I'm like, "Oh no!" I'm like, "I think he's alive, but his deputy is really dead.
Deputy is
like he just
dead. He's deader than dead.
he got shot so many times.
Overkill.
Like I don't even know how many times he shot him, but it was a bunch.
Yeah, I mean, more than 5.
So
Yeah.
and then that's when Cad Bane is like, Tatooine belongs to the Syndicate or whatever.
Yeah,
and
it's
he,
basically, as long as you leave us alone, you'll be safe.
he's like, as long as the spice keeps running
Yeah,
or whatever.
yeah, what-
yeah. And then he just slowly walks back off.
just turns around, walks
so
off.
cool.
Yeah.
Oh man, they like I don't know. I'm amazed at how cool they were able to make him be.
Oh
in
yeah,
this, but
yeah, so good.
But anyways, now you can go into the
Okay,
next
thank
part
you.
if you want. You're
Now-
welcome.
So I'm not going to hurry through this, but it is a significant moment. This is kind of where I think the war officially starts. And we got 2 of the Pike Syndicates, 2 Pikes, I guess that's what they're called. I don't know. And so they go into that famous cantina with the that main Twi'lek lady. I can't remember her name, but they go in and they have their little money safe type thing, and they sit down, order a drink. And you can already tell that the Twi'lek owner, like, she knows that something's wrong with them, and she's trying to investigate. But immediately, as soon as their drinks come, they leave. And all of a sudden, you can tell it's like there's something wrong. And she looks over, and right as she looks over, the droid that was serving them says, "Oh, you forgot I can't remember what they're called, but you're safe, basically." And she's like, and then boom, blows up the entire cantina, presumably, and I think it's safe to say, killing everybody in the cantina.
You know, honestly, who I thought of more than anything in that, I was like, oh no, not the
Max Rebo.
yeah,
Not Max Rebo.
not Max Rebo and
Dude.
the Snoodles or Oodles or whatever they call them. What do they call those guys? I can't remember.
But if we can't lose the Marshal and Max Rebo in the same episode.
Like, I kid you not, that was my first thought. But
Yeah.
they never showed Max Rebo, and
no,
when they
he was off that day, hopefully.
maybe. But even the other dudes, like the ones from those are the guys from
come on.
the original trilogy
Cantina,
playing
yeah.
in the cantina. Like I don't know. I hope they survived, but
Yeah.
but no, like that's a big moment, right? The first
Yeah.
play of you
That's-
would say
that's
of the
the-
war, the first
yeah.
big move.
The shot heard around the world, so to speak.
Yeah, and so it's really gonna put things into action. And here's the thing: last episode,
This is the
season
last
finale
episode. Yeah,
is
it's
gonna be next week.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
everything's going to kind of. It's kind of weird because you assume that whatever is going to go down is going to be like finalized in this next episode because well, I have thoughts.
Yeah.
I'll get to those in a minute.
So the final scene is pretty crazy and pretty awesome, but basically the final scene that we see is we go back to this mysterious forest planet. Pardon me, I'm getting a little hiccupy here. Anyway, but we get Luke and we get Grogu, and they're finally in their his little completed temple or learning area, whatever you want to call it. And they're just sitting across from one another, and they have this little blanket rolled out, and then Luke basically says, the Mandalorian had a gift for you, and he pulls it out, and exactly like I had predicted, which I think everybody kind of knew it, but he pulls out a little Beskar chainmail shirt for him, and he sets it down. And but he's like, now wait, before you pick it up, I do have a choice for you. And and the dude opens this box, and Luke pulls out Yoda's lightsaber, which is
Yeah.
just so phenomenal. And he lights it up and says, it's a lightsaber. It's a tool of the Jedi. And he sets it down. And he's like, I want you to choose because you can only have one. You can either pick the Beskar armor and go back to Mando and abandoning the Jedi way, or you can choose the lightsaber and stay with me and, forget your past, because at the end of the day, if you choose this Jedi way, you may never see Mando again. And Grogu's looking back and forth, and we end on him
that's what it ends
trying to
on.
decide. Which, I literally got up off my couch. I'm sure my neighbors hate me because I live in an apartment. I'm like, no! Dude, there's so many times I legitimately shouted during this episode. I know they have to be mad at me.
So let's cover that. Let me ask you this. What do you want Grogu to choose first? And then second, what do you think he's going to choose?
So I want both. Here's here I'll tell you that, but I also have my theories of what's going to happen too, but we'll get into that. So what I would like, honestly, I want both. But I want him to choose the lightsaber. I want him to become a Jedi. I want him to have Yoda's lightsaber, flip around, be strong with the Force, and become a Jedi. I want that, obviously. But I do think that he is going to choose the Beskar armor because that connection with him is just too strong at this point in his life. And because, I just think he wants to be back with them. He's going to take the armor and he's going to abandon. It's going to be a hard decision, but I think he's going to choose it. Now, part of that is because I think they kind of foreshadowed a little bit by that lady taking out the droid pit, and there's a perfect little mini bubble for him to sit in the N1 Starfighter. But aside from that, I do think that's what's going to happen. I do think that is going to be the case, that he's going to end up choosing it and going back to Mando. I will just throw this in. I do think if he does choose, and I could be wrong, but I think if he does choose the lightsaber, I think he's going to give him both because it was a test. It's like, if you are going to stay faithful to the Jedi way, I'll give you both. But if you chose the armor, you'd have to go back to Mando and not have the saber and all that stuff like that. But there's another thing I could say, but I'll throw it back to you. What do you think? What do you want and what do you think?
So I think I want both is what I want. I want him to wear the armor and have Yoda's lightsaber, because I just think that's so cool.
Of course. Yeah.
I think he's going to choose the armor.
Yeah.
Because kind of basically just what you said with the connection he has with Mando. I don't think that Grogu's desire to be a Jedi is strong enough.
And it's heavily foreshadowed through this whole and touched on this whole episode.
I don't know that he cares enough about that to sacrifice what he has with the Mandalorian.
Yeah.
And when you look at it bigger picture and just from a production and
they're not going to throw away their ace in the hole.
They're not going to throw away Grogu being a part of the Mandalorian.
Yeah.
That's their biggest money making part of the whole thing.
Yeah.
So for Grogu to stay, he's either picking that armor or something else is going to happen where he does choose to be a Jedi, but then still somehow ends up with Mandalorian.
But yeah, because maybe he picks it, but then they get a report from Ahsoka or something that they're all in danger because of the war, and Grogu, I have to go be with him or something like that. I don't know,
but whatever it is, to me, I think whatever happens, somehow Grogu is going to end up back with Mando for season 3 of the Mandalorian.
Sure. Yeah. So let me throw this out, and this is just a little thought that I had, and this is pretty interesting. And shout out to Philip Mehurin, because we were talking about this the other day. He wanted my thoughts on the episode. But one thing that we had mentioned when we were talking is that it's actually a really cool. So we had this very cool poetic callback of Yoda being the teacher to Luke, and he's on his back. But now Luke's the teacher to Grogu, and he's on his back. But so what would be interesting is the fact that he chooses Mando, right? He chooses Mando, and he leaves with his training theoretically being incomplete, and he goes off to save his friends, just like Luke did.
Luke did.
And he left Yoda without his training being complete because he had to go save his friends. And I think that's a really cool thing that could be alluded to, that he does go back to Mando because he wants to save his friend. And so again, just it's very poetically calling back to what happened in Empire Strikes Back, where he leaves Yoda because he has to go save his friends, and that maybe eventually he comes back or something like that.
One thing, I'm not 100% sure we're gonna know the answer to what Grogu picks.
No, yeah,
in this season,
Sure.
I think we may have to wait for season 3 of The Mandalorian to know what he picked.
unless
It may show at the end or something what he picked, or
Yeah.
they may like somewhere towards the very end kind of close that up,
Well-
or maybe Luke brings them back to him, or
Yeah. I was going to say, unless, and this is kind of stretching, but unless he goes back because they're in this war and he actually does help fight, because, and I know that's why I say it's a bit of a stretch, because, but anyway, my thing is that at the end of their training session, basically Luke says, I've got you back to the point where you can defend yourself, and you can you're not just helpless anymore.
Mhm.
And so that makes me think like maybe he does go back and somehow helps in the battle, but that may not happen.
I don't
think
know.
it's a stretch.
I think I have a hard time believing that. First of all, because even though yes they're about to like go to war, I don't think it's as big of a deal to like Luke Skywalker. Like he's
yeah.
like it's not a super wide known event or something, right?
Sure.
So like Luke's not even gonna know.
And that's why I said it's probably a stretch,
And Mando's already left, so and it doesn't sound like they have like way to really communicate with each other.
Sure.
So Luke would have to like go back, and I just don't think they have time to do all that. So
Yeah.
that's
I don't
kind
know.
of where I'm at with it. But
Yeah. To get that answer, I think they would have to take too much from the final episode.
unless like Mando does, or Grogu does pick to go back to Mando, so Luke takes him to Tatooine, and towards the end,
Yeah.
Grogu shows up to like help out, like something they're like about to die or something. Grogu's all of a
That
sudden
could be
there.
it too.
And Luke
Could.
even, I guess, at that point, right?
Yeah.
Because he'd be
Yeah.
there too. But I don't know. I don't know that that's
I
necessary.
think it's pulling in a little too much.
Yeah, that might be a little too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways it could play out.
Which we did say that on our prediction of episode 5. Like, man, there's no way that could happen because that would take too much from the Boba Fett show.
Well,
we said that, and we.
And that's kind of where I want to go in our discussion next.
Yeah.
Is yeah, let's just do it now. So
Yeah.
when you think about the Book of Boba Fett, we've had 5 episodes that, or no, sorry, 4 episodes that were focusing on Boba Fett,
Yeah.
dealing with some of how he ended up getting to where he was when we met him in The Mandalorian season 2,
Yeah.
and also kind of creating the current war that we're about to go that's about to go down.
Sure. Yeah.
That was in the first 4 episodes. Then episode 5, we get what Mando's been up to. Episode 6, we get what Grogu's been up to, right?
Pretty
it's kind of
much,
what
yeah,
the concept is there. An update with Grogu, Luke, and then Mando kind of carrying that along.
Sure.
With a little teaser of Boba Fett, like a little Easter egg.
A little Easter egg in his own show. No, I posted that meme on.
I think he said one line.
I
don't
posted
know.
that meme on Facebook for all those who saw it. And it says, "Characters I hope, special characters, side characters I hope to see in Book of Boba Fett."
Yeah.
Boba Fett.
It's so good.
It's so good.
But here's my argument. When you think about it in a traditional series format, when you think about it in that way, is the Book of Boba Fett successful? I would say no.
Yeah.
I would
unfortunately.
say that it has not been successful. It was kind of slow at the beginning.
Yeah.
And now, yes, we have things that are very exciting, but they don't really make sense within the Book of Boba Fett. So to me, it's kind of like a convoluted series. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
Totally.
pacing is weird, all that stuff. It's very odd.
Sure. Yeah.
But here's where I want to kind of defend it. And I think that this is where the creators, specifically Favreau and Filoni, are with it.
Yeah.
And where it's helping me when I think about it this way. And that's that Favreau and Filoni are creating a universe, okay,
Sure.
of
Yeah.
stories. They have an event they're leading to. They started with The Mandalorian, the 2 seasons of Mandalorian. They're now doing it with Boba Fett. They're going to have Ahsoka. They're going to have another season of Mandalorian. And we know that eventually it's all leading up to a big event.
Yeah.
I think they aren't looking at this stuff as much as a series, standalone series, as much as this is just a continuation of what they've already done.
Right.
Except they took some time to tell what had happened to Boba Fett, how he got to where he was, and now they're kind of continuing on in the story they've been telling.
Yeah.
When you look at it that way, it makes more sense, right? If it was all one big story, just erase the idea of any kind of title on this, okay?
Yeah, right.
Put all these chapters in a line, completely get rid of titles, get rid of all that stuff.
Yeah.
The story starts to make more sense.
Yeah.
They had all this, now we're going back, learning about Boba Fett, what he was doing, and then now we're back on track with Mando and what Grogu's been doing.
Yeah.
To me, it's more acceptable.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of where they made the mistake, is that they're trying to differentiate these things when really they're all flowing into one another.
Exactly.
You know?
And so what I think the issue here is that's what Favreau and Filoni are doing, but then you have the traditional format of media that the people who are producing this show and putting in this show, they can't break those barriers because they're so stuck in that thinking and that way of presenting a show, and the way that you promote and market a show and etc., that they had to put this under a new title.
Sure.
So you have The Mandalorian season 1, season 2, now the Book of Boba Fett. You're going to have The Mandalorian. You're dividing it up into these different shows, but really it's all one big long narrative.
Right. It's one universe, it's exactly what you're saying. It's one universe that kind of flows into one.
And so when I think about it that way, I find it a lot more, I think it makes more sense. I think I accept it more.
Yeah.
But when I think about these trying to be separate shows is when it really just doesn't work.
It just doesn't work.
And the Book of Boba Fett doesn't work for me. Now, here's what I think they should have done to kind of please both sides of it. I've been thinking about it, and I think what would have made sense is for this to have been called The Mandalorian, the Book of Boba Fett. As a subtitle.
That actually makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Instead of trying to completely say, hey, this is a new series.
It's like a spinoff or like a diversion.
Instead, call this The Mandalorian, and then that subtitle, The Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
And I think it would have really kind of lessened the issues and confusion people have had with the series so far.
Yeah.
And you couldn't maybe have surprised people with the fact that like Mando and Grogu's in this, because it's been kind of a surprise, right?
Yeah.
But I think maybe it would have been better for it to not have been a surprise, just so we understood what was happening with this.
Yeah.
And because I just know there's a lot of confusion with it, and it's kind of hurt this series as a whole.
Yeah.
Because of people's confusion and kind of like finding it mediocre.
Right.
It
wouldn't be as mediocre, again, like you said, if you just think it's just like an offshoot of the main Mandalorian.
Right. It's like, hey, we're veering off the path for a little bit to explain some things with Boba Fett that people did wonder when he showed back up.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the big questions. They've answered the questions we had.
Yeah, and honestly, I think if they did it that way, people's expectations wouldn't be as high as I think maybe they were. Mm-hmm. And I think it would have been great, because at the end of the day, it would have been one of those things like, oh, this is awesome because we're getting those answers to Boba Fett, but it's still Mandalorian. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So here's how they have to stick the landing next week, in my opinion.
Yeah.
In next week's episode, we have to identify the true enemy.
Yeah, that's what you're saying.
That's in the background here.
Yeah.
Because yes, we have the Syndicate. Yes, we have Cad Bane working for the Syndicate. Okay?
Yeah.
The Hutts have been kind of involved a little bit. All these different characters are in play. Mm-hmm. But to me, there's got to be something more.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
And I think that this next episode is not going to necessarily single-handedly deal with them.
Yeah.
But it's going to either hint at who they are, or it's going to be like a last-minute reveal.
Yeah.
And we've talked about many times, I have two people in mind, either Kira or
Yeah.
Thrawn.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if we don't get either of those, and it's truly just the Pike Syndicate, that's
It's
it.
gonna be disappointing.
I'm gonna be disappointed, and I'm going to I think say that the series, as just thinking about it as a series, has failed.
Sure. Yeah.
Because the way that it started, and then you had the Mando episodes, which kind of, again, I love what we've gotten out of the Mando episodes. I love them.
totally.
I love the last two episodes.
Yeah.
But when I'm just thinking bigger picture as a series, if they want it to be just a confined series,
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to make sense if we don't see how this progresses the story that we've been going on.
And if they don't, then like you said, it should have just been Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, not Mandalorian season 3. It should have been just its own little offshoot, just to explain what's happening.
But
with Boba
this,
Fett, you know,
this last episode has to tie it into the bigger universe,
yeah, absolutely,
and why Boba Fett's involved.
Yeah.
His stakes in the story.
yeah,
And right now, just him clearing his territory of the Pikes, which I think he'll manage to do
Yeah.
in this episode. I think he will manage to clear his territory. He'll be whatever there,
right,
is not enough.
right.
He's got to clear that, but then we got to find
some
out
objective.
that there's something bigger.
Yeah, that
That
sync them. Or
yeah,
something. Yeah,
there's something bigger that's going on.
Yeah,
right.
There's a bigger fish.
They've got to figure that out.
Yeah.
And to me, I think it makes perfect sense that it's Thrawn,
Yeah,
but I don't know that. That's just my
Right,
thing out there.
right.
I think it would be really cool if there's a Kira connection. I think that'd be really neat, but also may not be the case.
yeah,
Those are just theories. But I think there's got to be something like. Do you agree that there has to be something, or
No,
are you?
I'm
yeah?
I'm exactly
and
with you.
I'm curious,
Yeah.
for those of you who listen, comment, let us know. Are you in agreement with us? Do you think there needs to be something more? Or are you fine with it just being the Pike Syndicate?
Yeah.
Or, like, give your thoughts on that. Because
Yeah.
I'm really curious on where they're headed with this. But because if this series only has updates on Mando and explains the past of Boba,
Yeah.
but doesn't lead us anywhere into where we're going next, I'm going to have major issues
Yeah.
with this series.
Totally agree. Yeah, so at the end of the day, it is one of those things where it's been cool to see what we got. And I kind of reiterate what I said, but it has to tie in, like you just said. And if they didn't plan to do it, then they should have just said, hey, this is a little offshoot to quell your Mando desires and give you some answers to Book of Boba Fett before, give you some answers to Boba Fett's life before we get to Mandalorian season 3. And at the end of the day, that would have been satisfactory for a lot of people. And like, okay, we understand that there's not some bigger arching story because at the end of the day, we're just trying to find some answers to Boba and what's his next step and how is his story going to find resolution, to this character. But like I said, because they didn't do that, we're gonna have to have something bigger. And if they don't, it's gonna be kind of rough. So yeah, that's my final thoughts on that. So.
Yeah, so let us know your thoughts. But overall, like, just looking at this episode by itself, it's going to be one to remember for a long time. It's a special episode. It again reminds us of just the magic of Star Wars and what Star Wars is capable of. I loved it. I really hope that, though, as a series, we stick the landing next week. You can guarantee to come back here and we'll be discussing it and talking about our thoughts on it next week. So be ready for that. If you're a Patreon member, you're going to have early access to that episode. As soon as we upload that episode, you will be able to listen to it. If you are not a Patreon member, you're going to have to wait until Saturday at 2:00. And that Saturday at 2:00, it'll post on our Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, Facebook. You can listen to it at all those places. But if you want to subscribe for $5, you can listen to that early on Patreon as well as our first like true episode of And Other Stuff, which is an exclusive series to our Patreon that you can catch there. We're actually just about to record it. So yes, we've been talking a long time and we're going to continue to talk even more.
I've become weary and well-doing.
So please subscribe to us. We're working so hard for this. Okay?
Give us your money.
Give us your money, please.
We need it for better things.
Yes, but we have lots of plans. But we want to thank you guys all so much for joining us. Please like us on Facebook. Share our post, our Instagram. We gave up on our Twitter a long time ago, but you know, you can find us on there and share our post. It helps a lot when you share our post. It goes out to your friends and family, and that helps get not only just our name out there, but also our content. And maybe if they just decide, your grandma decides, oh, I'm gonna press play on this and see what it is, and they hear our beautiful voices, then you know they're going to, maybe she's going to subscribe to our Patreon, and that would mean a lot to us. So.
Yes, I know grandmas want to hear this voice. So,
anyways, may the Force be with you, and we thank you for joining the Jedi Eternal.